last night I was teaching a class around some spiritual tools of how to connect into your intuition, to know what it is, know how to trust it. And we were talking about the different ways that we can get intuition, different ways that we can hear things and messages. And clairaudience is the ability to, not that we all have these things, so you have this ability, but to sense answers, intuition, guidance from your higher self, your higher power, by hearing things, right? And so I'm laying in my bed, and this morning I hear the call of a Cooper's hawk, and then I hear it's juvenile, so the fledgling that I've been auditorially tracking. But so I hear them, and I'm like, ooh, 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 I want that message. Like, that's calling to me. All of my body was like, and they sounded like they were in my backyard. So I went outside, started my gardening a little bit earlier, and saw that the hawk was actually sitting in my tree over there, and it was eating its lunch or breakfast. It's probably lunch for it. Or maybe, I don't know how often they eat, but anyways, so then I got the message, right? I got the intuitive message, go outside, go outside. There's something that will make you feel alive. Go outside, go outside. So I went outside, and then I got to see this hawk learn to eat its meal, right? A fledgling is learning how to do this, and watch it. And I told myself, we'll just stay until it's done. So clairvoyance is the ability to see things, and messages come clairvoyantly. You could see an image in your head, or you could see something outside that inspires something inside. So it's the senses, the visual senses, the imagery that you either see externally or internally. So I get the hawk's message here. And, sitting and watching this hawk, I decided I would wait until it was done, right? I would stay around and kind of witness its whole process. And I did, and it was amazing. And what I found was it was hard work, right? Eating in the natural world isn't quite like going to the grocery store. And he had to get all the feathers off, not all, but whatever. He was trying to get to a place where he could get in and get the meat, what he needs to survive. And I don't know if it's a boy or girl, but it took it a while. And then it started, and it was just diligent and moving it around and pulling and stretching and like pulling off feathers. And then, when it got there, you could tell it was like, you could tell it was so much more satisfied than it was when it was like trying to get into it. And and then it finished, and I think it got all the meaty bits. Like, it stayed with that little bird and got everything it needed. And then afterwards, it released it and then just sat there, fluffed itself, cleaned its beak, went to the bathroom, a little poo, stretched a little more, looked around, like cleaned the branch and picked off bits, and then cleaned its beak on the branch, and just really like rested, and so he could digest and be with that food. And he didn't sit there too long, but probably 5-10 minutes after his meal, stretching his wings. And then as we're both sitting there was something new, and both of us noticed it because there was a new bird I hadn't heard, and it looked like it hadn't heard either. And so we got to experience that together. And I said, and how is this intuition? For me, this is a message to slow down, right? Part of what I am deeply in contemplation about is, what is the one thing I need to do to really improve my experience of being? And so by tapping in, slowing down, paying attention to what's going around, looking at the things, how they're living, how they're growing, listening to my intuition, getting out of my bed and going outside to see where the hawks were, right? What's going on in my backyard. So, like, get excited. Follow those nudges, follow those little things. It might seem insignificant, and it might seem like, how is a bird in your backyard intuition? Because part of me knows that I need that. That, a better way to start my day today would be outside with the birds, gardening, watching the miracle of life, reminding myself that, oh yes, eat what you're meant to eat. It might be a little more difficult. It may be more time consuming. He looked a little frustrated getting into that bird, but he didn't stop. Right? He didn't give up. He continued to get into it. And then he got to the part that he really meant, that was really right for him, enjoyed it, finished, didn't run off, right? He had to be present with that meal. He had to actually focus in on it. And then it was messy, right? I don't know. I haven't eaten a wild bird like that, and it looked messy. And so he cleaned himself. He fluffed his feathers. He stretched his legs, his wings. I'm sure it wasn't easy either. His muscles might be a little sore, his feet from grabbing and pulling. He's a bird of flight, and so who knows? And he's a baby. So really looking at it and like, it may not be easy. It may not be the first. It's not like when mom was feeding it to him. He had to work for it. He had to get into it. Well, same thing with me. Slow down. Be willing to do the work. I'm doing it in the garden, but now it's like I need to harvest my freaking cabbages. My cabbages have needed to be harvested for a really long time, but it's freaking work. Okay, well, do your work. What does your body need? Oh, I'm on antibiotics right now for an infection, and like, my body needs probiotics. I could freaking pickle my cabbage and have my own homemade biotics. It's very smart. So it's like the message to me intuitively is, yeah, no, the right foods might be work, but they're worth the work. It's what's natural. It's what's graceful, and don't rush it. Be with it. Like, the main part of our being alive, is staying alive. And the most important factor of us staying alive is what we, like, how we keep, like, replenishing our bodies. Like, how my body is deficient in some key minerals like iron, and that makes it difficult for my body to make enough blood cells, and I'm having consequences of that in my body. So, like, taking that time, making sure that my body has what it needs to be nourished, like, that's an intuitive message I got from watching the hawk eat up in that tree, is that, hey, you have needs that are provided by the foods that you are meant to be eating. Eat those foods. Make sure it takes time, and be mindful about it. Don't rush about. This is the main part of being alive. Keeping your house clean isn't the main part of being alive. It's not actually going to kill you. Okay? But if you don't nourish your body adequately, like if your house is clean and you're eating shit, probably reverse your priorities. I'm talking to myself, right? I am incredibly mindful and at peace most of the time, but I need to push myself to be a little more uncomfortable. One of the things that came intuitively from that situation was, it just left my head again. But one of the things that came out of that is that the discomfort, I have a real aversion to discomfort. We all do. It's kind of a human thing. But mine is pretty strong, and I am absolutely brilliant at getting what I want. And I don't want to be uncomfortable. So I do a lot of things that make me so comfortable that sometimes it's not healthy, right? So the intuitive hit that came from watching that bird eat was, what's the difference? Like, how can meditation helps you actually feel your body more and feel your intuition more and feel the senses that aren't as obvious, like sight, sense, like taste, touch, sound. Like, what is the intuitive message coming from that? And what it does is, in meditation, what I realize is that I need to learn and really tune into the different kinds of discomfort, because I've also injured myself by pushing myself to be uncomfortable. But I've also injured myself by not pushing myself to be uncomfortable. So what then? Well, for me, what that means now, since this little birdie bird came and hung out with me this morning, is that I need to identify the difference between, is this uncomfortable destructive or uncomfortable productive? Is this helping me grow or is this helping me die? That's always really the decision, right? If we want to boil everything down to binary code, is this going to help me grow or die? Grow or die? Grow or die? And sometimes some plants that I'm trying to make grow don't seem to want to grow, and I get to figure out why is that not growing? Who is causing the problem? Sometimes it's external, like freaking bugs, and sometimes it's internal, like maybe it's a nutrient deficiency. I don't know, I just fertilized, we'll find out. But the same is true with me. And so that intuitive message, and so grateful for teaching things like this because it keeps it top of mind for me. But that hawk just having its meal, I used my clairaudience to get out there and recognize that is how spirit, the life, got my attention. And and it was my clairvoyance, my ability to see small things, that while we can see things, some people can see things that aren't there, I could see something that was right there, but I could also see the message that was there for me. So that is what I'm taking away from this, and I am now overdue to go get ready for my day, the work day, like where I have to go back in the house. And but that's okay because I go inside when it starts to get warm. So go outside or tune in to your hearing, your seeing, your feeling, your knowing. Tune in a little deeper. What are you hearing that sparks something in you? What do you see that then you feel inspired, or you're like, oh, that might be an answer to that thing I was saying? What is it that life is trying to tell you? And it could be this right here, to rest. And even in a pile of raked up rubbish from the walkway, it actually creates a nice, soft place to take a nap. So listen to what the messages are telling you, and then go have a magical life that's full of support from the unseen.